When will our boys see signs and wonders from their fathers? We're in their lives, but not a lot of us are in the home married. My daughter told me one day, brother, she says, Dad, generational wealth starts by you and mom staying together. If Satan is strategically taking you out the home, why do you think you don't need to be there?
The Man, the Moment Demands. What is this book about?
I wrote this book for men who are tired of being the wrong man in the moment. I just got tired of the anger, the frustration, the inability to express love outside of sex. The struggle even today I have to fight to hold Nicole's hand.
Really?
Yeah, because I grew up in Detroit, man, and so I've seen guys get beat down at concerts for holding their girl's hand. I wanted to teach men how to become whole. We're pigeonholed and have been hoodwinked into this idea that we're only masculine. And then you wonder why men, regardless of profession, when they can no longer do it the way they used to, now they're struggling with depression, suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
We often say we want to do all things through Christ, but we limit ourselves when we only allow ourselves to do two things. Provide and protect, we've mastered that.
Yeah.
Now it's time for men to evolve.
Was there ever moments in your marriage where you were like, I married the wrong person?
I would say we both have had those moments. I look at what's the option. You think I'm gonna start over? No way. What does that say to my son about fortitude? What does that say to my daughter about her value? That I can't get past some emotions of a moment that could actually ruin the trajectory of my future. You gotta learn how to feel other emotions besides the ones you hide behind.
Marriage rates in the Black community is like 30% or something. And by 30, it's gonna go into the teens. We gotta turn this thing around.
Do you know our first marriage therapy session was 9 hours? The Most High told Nicole and I, you built this marriage the way you wanted to. We're gonna tear all of this down and I'm gonna build it.
How long did it take for you to get to that heart posture? What year in marriage? Dear Future Wifey.
Okay, scripturally, the Bible says your Father has already designed and purposed you.
I experienced an invitation of God this morning.
So you got to become an elite decision maker.
Elite decision maker.
He said, because you are one fleshly decision away from losing it all.
Etched in my mind is what true submission to Christ looks like.
I gotta maintain that secret connection I have with God.
I'm so full and don't want to belabor this letter.
And I understand how important it is for men to disciple men, because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be where I am today.
I've traded worldly pleasures to live a God-centered life.
The encounter I just had, I just need to rest in it.
Help us to be considerate, creative, and courageous lovers.
I love you. Your future hubby. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I'm your host, Laterras R. Whitfield. Listen, are you still shacking up with us? If you're still shacking up with us, can we get a commitment? Hit that subscription button and subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified about upcoming episodes. And why don't you go ahead and head over to Patreon and subscribe to us on Patreon. Man, listen, like y'all have heard me say before, certain men that cross my path that I want them to be a part of my life, my journey, my mission. And y'all know this, I'm not gonna say this season, because this is gonna be the heartbeat of the podcast, period, which is increase marriage rates in the Black community and decrease divorce statistics. But we also want to provide tools so that people can do marriage right the first time. And so there's a great mandate that I want to push out in these internet streets about calling men to take their rightful place. And I don't know no other man better to have this conversation with than my homie, Jason Wilson. Y'all give it up, y'all.
What's up, man?
Listen, man, we back.
Yeah, glad to be back, yeah.
So, Jason, I know you're a little under the weather. And so, thank you for toughing out the symptoms that you have. And, what you got right now? You're a little congested and stuff?
I'm clear, just sinus infection.
Okay, cool.
Sinuses are draining, but other than that, I feel about maybe 60%.
60%, and still can beat me up at 60%. So let me tell you this. So listen, so Jason, first of all, I just want to jump into your book. I told you I wanted to have you back on once your book released, The Man, the Moment Demands. Now, what is this book about? For those that don't know or didn't watch the previous episode with you and your lovely wife, what is this book about?
I wrote this book for men who are tired of being the wrong man in the moment. or ruining the moment, as we often do. And definitely I've done it. 26 years of marriage, I can't count how many times I've been the wrong man in the moment. And it took for me to evolve beyond just being a provider and protector, which are two characteristics of the 10 that lead to becoming a comprehensive man. And I wanted to teach men how to become whole, how to not only provide and protect, but what does it look like to truly be a leader? Do you lead by only intimidation, or do you lead with cooperation? What is a lover? Is love to you only sex? How deep can you really dive regarding what your wife may need besides just sex? Then I go to the nurturer, then the gentleman, then the friend, then the husband, the father, and the son. And what's interesting, what I love about all of those characteristics is that Yeshua HaMashiach, or Jesus the Messiah, embodied all of them.
Yes.
And he is the standard in which I wrote the book around. Because to me, we often say we want to do all things through Christ, but we limit ourselves when we only allow ourselves to do two things. Provide and protect, we've mastered that.
Yeah.
Now it's time for men to evolve.
The 5th anniversary of Dear Future Wifey podcast is coming up. And guess who is here to discuss having their anniversary with Love Story Church on April 17th? None other than the host of Dear Future Wifey podcast, Laterras R. Whitfield.
How you doing, Love Story Church? I'm so thankful that God has allowed me to curate the Dear Future Wifey podcast, where I'm able to spread hope. The podcast just reached 600,000 subscribers on YouTube. Give it up for the Lord. April the 15th was when I started my podcast in 2020 at the heart of the pandemic. To have the Dear Future Wifey podcast at Love Story Church, the 5-year anniversary, which is the number of grace. And so I'm inviting each and every one of y'all. I want y'all to reach out to your friends and family. It's gonna be an amazing event. We're gonna have a dynamic group of panelists. Thank y'all so much for supporting John. Thank you so much for believing in me. Thank you for seeing the God in me. Thank you for seeing the destiny in me. He sent me a text yesterday. He said, I don't really care too much about your podcast, I care about you. You need friends in your life that's not caught up in the thing, in the work. We always introduce ourselves by what we do. But I love that John Gray says, listen, I don't care about what you do, I care about who you are. You are not what you do. You are not the job, you are not your occupation. Jesus wasn't just a carpenter, that was what he did. But he was a savior. He was a deliverer.
Whoa!
So I want you to understand who you are and whom's you are so you can walk into your divine purpose. Thank you so much, Pastor Gray. Thank you so much, Hamilton. Let me ask you this. Why aren't men getting married like they used to?
Why aren't they?
Why aren't they?
Fear. When I talk to men and work with them individually, it's the fear of being seen for who they really are. See, we're used to performing, and that goes well when she doesn't live with you. She's eventually, she used to seeing Batman, and that's typically what the brothers will let a woman see. But when you marry a woman, she gets to see Bruce Wayne now.
Yeah.
His childhood trauma, his fears, his insecurities. And if a man isn't a comprehensive one and hasn't done the work needed to really heal and get past his insecurities and fears, and knowing that he is worth more than what he does, really his value in being is in being and existing, he would constantly run from one of the greatest things that he desires, which is having a wife and having children. But the greater fear than all of that is being perceived as infallible or weak. And that's why a lot of men suffer in silence, suffer with loneliness, sadness, because of the facade. And I tell them all the time, freedom isn't found in the facade.
Freedom isn't found in the facade. When in moments did you have those moments where you were showing a facade to the people that you love or the woman that you love, Nicole? And like, how did you get to this place of knowing that freedom isn't found in the facade?
I got tired of suffering in silence. I got tired of, again, being the wrong man in the moment. There were several days, Nicole and Alexis, my daughter, would come home from church, and I would lay on the couch depressed, not even knowing why. Beautiful Sunday afternoon, saying, Dad, let's go out, go to the park, get some ice cream, and I wouldn't go.
What would you say in those moments?
I would say, no, I'm just going to sit here. I'm tired. But what I was dealing with was the unresolved anger and frustration from my father wound. And I wrote in this book also, the other side of the father wound is the mother wound, which is actually worse to me because society at large portrays mom as the only one who will typically be there. If anyone's going to leave, it's going to be dad, not mom. So what happens to a man's psyche when his mother abandons him?
That part.
And I just got tired of the anger, the frustration, the inability to express love outside of sex, the struggle even today I have to fight to hold Nicole's hand.
Really?
Yeah, because I grew up in Detroit, man. And so in my era in hip hop, which I call the golden era, you know, I've seen guys get beat down at concerts for holding their girls' hands.
What you mean?
You couldn't hold your girl hand, not in Detroit.
Why not?
You were weak. What you doing, dude? This is Def Jam. This is the Fresh
You would get
Fest.
beat up for holding a dude just walk up on.
My partner literally got jumped walking down the main street in Detroit called Jefferson, holding his girl hands because guys didn't like it. Seriously. That's the hyper masculine male. Yeah.
He got jumped just for holding his woman's hand?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. They perceived you as being weak. You know what you trying to romance out here? I'm serious, man.
No,
I'm serious, man. But you see why we are the way we are now.
And you said to this very day, you still fight that?
Yeah, because my psyche was programmed that way. My brothers taught me before I even met Nicole, never trust your wife.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
my
so,
homeboy told me that.
Yeah, and so all of these...
And there's a popular song that says these H's ain't loyal.
Yeah, I mean, we can go down like the playlist of songs that tell us not to trust women. And so when you're programmed that way as a man, then you finally meet the right woman. You got to dig through all of this foolishness that you've been taught as a young boy, teenager, and then a young adult man, just to become mature enough to get to the place where you would say or ask for her hand in marriage.
Ooh.
And so that's one of the main things that I work so hard for is for men to just break free, take off the Superman cape that's strangling you, and understand that, you know, the woman you marry, she'll tell you, Nicole said, leave the cape at the door.
Yeah. I
stopped wearing it a long time ago, but as I was breaking free from it, I could leave it at the door. But as a man, you gotta, you know, like women had to fight for the rights that they have today.
Yep.
As men, I don't know why we bow down to societal expectations or their definitions of men. And so we're pigeonholed and have been hoodwinked into this idea that we're only masculine. We only can provide and protect. And then you wonder why men, regardless of profession, when they can no longer do it the way they used to, now they're struggling with depression, suicidal ideations, you know, alcoholism. And that's a major issue amongst men right now. And of course, suicide, which we die almost 4 times as likely as women.
You brought up an interesting point. It's like, how do you become vulnerable enough to ask for a woman's hand in marriage when you don't even believe it's masculine to even hold her hand walking down the street?
Well, vulnerable, I think I shared with you before, I stopped using that word because actually that's not what we're trying to advise men to do. The word vulnerable actually means you're susceptible to harm or violence. Okay, what we're telling men or encouraging men to become emotionally open or transparent.
I like that.
I never want to be vulnerable. I never want my wife or children in vulnerable positions.
That's good.
So I want to keep that word to its truest definition.
Good, I like that.
However, as men, we have to become emotionally open and transparent with how we're feeling, so that way our wives won't know really what we were struggling with until they bury us. And that's typically when majority of women find out what their husbands were dealing with is planning their funeral. And I work really hard to try to help men like, look, stop acting like your woman is your daughter. Stop acting like your wife is your child. She's strong. She can take it. You just have to learn how to convey those emotions in such a way where it's not, for one, tearing her down or condemning her. But two, I have a principle called the huddle principle. We have to be careful and read the room before you drop something too heavy on your team.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, if Tom Brady, when he was playing with the Patriots, come back to the huddle, no matter what he thought of the game, the outcome, if he think they would lose or not, he wouldn't share that. He'd say, look, we got to run this play. We got to fight hard. Let's keep pushing through. Sometimes as a man, you have to protect the team. They can only see so much, but then sometimes when they're ready, like I have to ask Nicole, can she receive something heavy when I'm ready to express it with her? Because she may have had a rough day. But when Nicole is ready to hear my heart, because she wants to know what bothers me. She wants to know what's heavy, because we'll see the African pictures with the African king laying his head in the queen's lap. But as men, we fear being in that very position that we desire to be in. But you have to get to the place where you know your value is not based on what you do, but who you are.
So would you say the appropriate word for that, the reason why men fear to be in her lap like that, is because he doesn't want to be vulnerable?
Not vulnerable, because he's not susceptible to being attacked or harmed.
Does he feel like that? Does he feel emotionally that the woman will weaponize this moment like Samson and Delilah in those moments where the Bible says he found a safe place to lay his head in Delilah's lap, and then he woke up and then he getting tied up?
Well, he was with the wrong woman.
Exactly.
Okay, that's an extreme, but just say if you marry and this woman has been faithful. Now, if you're struggling with your own, the way you were raised and conditioned as a man, that's different.
Yeah.
Now, if you've tried it before and Nicole has failed where she didn't meet the moment and she impassively dismissed my emotions, I don't go back into emotional incarceration. See, I never look at it being vulnerable. If anyone loses, it's my wife. If anyone loses, it's the relationships.
Yes.
If anyone loses, it's anyone who tries to take advantage of my humanity and who I am as a man. Once that happens, now I know what I'm dealing with.
Yes.
In marriage, you can't put a boundary against your queen.
Yes.
Okay? So as a mature man in the Most High, I let Nicole know, like, hey, I wasn't complaining, I was venting. Because when you use the word complaining to a man, a strong man who provides, who's always there,
Yeah.
that's like, whoa, look here, I'm not complaining, I'm venting.
That's real.
There's a major difference. But if I didn't express that to Nicole, this is why so many married men go down the wrong path and run into Delilahs.
Yep.
And laying your head down with a woman who wants to behead you.
Yes.
You know, and so that's very crucial. So the whole vulnerable piece with Nicole, it's like, man, I got 26 years married with you, 32 years together. It's like, look, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to leave you. And we've made that vow and commitment towards each other. I mean, and just recently, brother, to be transparent, we went through a heavy moment where we were both being spiritually attacked. But we have a principle where we say, who's going to cross the line? So that line could be between you and the bed. It could be at the dinner table. Who's going to cross the line and humble themselves for the greater good of the marriage? And so that's where Nicole and I are, because I get attacked a lot for what I do spiritually.
Yes.
And so does Nicole, because we're intertwined so much in ministry. And we decide, like, look, I'm not leaving you. I can't be without you. Nicole literally told me I am hers. To hear that from a woman, like, it was unequivocal, like, you are mine. That's what she told me.
How did that feel?
It took me aback, like, wow, this woman, like, oh no, let's let you know you mine. But again, women have such a great power to inspire.
They do.
And so Nicole, in that moment, it's not about what I can do, it's who I am as Jason. That meant the world to me when she said that. And it like ignited a fiery spirit in me to go even harder against the evil one who was trying to create dissension in that moment.
Put language around it when we say we get attacked spiritually. When you say, what did that attack look like spiritually on your life? In your relationship, your marriage, or even your mind, whatever it was. Because a lot of times people, they hear stuff and be like, oh, it's a spiritual attack. They don't know what that means.
Yeah, well, the scriptures say that Satan wears down the saints of the Most High. So again, he's not trying to knock us out in the first round or the second or the third. He's patient, he's strategic, he waits to the 7th or 8th. So what does that look like? Your boss said something or demotes you, or a coworker took some credit for something you worked hard on.
Right.
Or like me, I'm bedridden with the flu and sinus infection, 6 days and feeling weak and, like starting to get hard on myself. Like, man, I got to get out here to promote this book and do these other things. And now Nicole will say something.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it sets up. Or even with your children, things can happen. We've had one situation, man, where Nicole calls me in tears. She says, Jason, when I came home, the entire house smelled like gas. No leaks. And she dropped to her knees, started praying. And in that moment, we realized that we were actually being attacked because things had been happening all the way up to that week.
It really smelled like gas. Did you smell it?
I wasn't home. She called me. And when I got home, I'm searching because I own a construction company. There were no leaks, brother. The enemy has always been after my family, which is why I almost died twice. And then I'm saving the boys that I help. The enemy that I'm top priority on his hit list.
Yep.
He don't check anyone that's on the bench.
Yeah.
And so that's for the brothers. That's what it looks like. Or a woman flirting with you.
Yeah.
Again, Satan isn't omniscient. He sees what you desires by what you look at, what you're focused on. And so are you staying too long in this situation or this area in a room where you shouldn't be? Or are you fleeing like Joseph?
As much as vocal as you are about the love that you have for your wife, women still be shooting their shot at you?
I don't see it. You know what I mean? Nicole, she don't believe that, but I don't. It's not blatant. I think the respect factor is there. They don't know how to respond, but sometimes you could see if I was to approach the situation differently, or if my heart wasn't in the right place, I'm sure I could initiate. But I try to carry myself in a way where it's too risky for them to even flirt with me.
It's too risky for them to even flirt with you.
Yeah.
What is Nicole's narrative? Did she be picking up on something? So you didn't see that? You didn't see that woman sit here and do X, Y, Z, and you gonna act like you didn't see that?
No, Nicole is like, she'll say, come on, Jay, you got, but I'm oblivious sometimes. It's like when you focus on one thing, and then also, this is interesting. We were just talking about this. I told her, don't worry about me leaving her for another woman. Mm-hmm. And I said, this, I'm not going to make this hyper spiritual either. Just look at this in the natural. One of the man's greatest desires is peace.
Yes.
Why would I get in a relationship with another woman? Now I need another phone. Now I got to hire here. That right there, I pray for wisdom for a reason. Okay. That's not peace to me. However, if the Most High sends an angel to my door and she knocks and says, hey, he's pleased with your work, you can come home now. That'll be a challenge. Because I do believe when I'm absent from this body, I'm present with him. And I know I'm an alien here, as Paul talks about. And I know there's a heaven. I know there's rest. And if I had that opportunity, like Paul says, he's wavered between two opinions. That'd be a tough day.
Really?
Yeah, I love my family. You know that. My son. Y'all be straight. I see y'all in a minute. I'm 54. Another, you know what I mean?
You ain't even that old. What are you talking about?
I'm saying, but they probably got to wait another 60 years to see me. You know what I mean? But, when you a soldier, when you fighting.
You really feel like that?
I love the Most High, man. To be in the presence of Yeshua, man.
I've never heard nobody say that in my life.
No worries, because I don't love this place. What's there to love about this place, man? Straight up. Seriously, man.
The only thing my wife could be worried about is if God done told me, hey, your time is up. You're like, all right, Nicole, it was real. See you later.
He said, you can stay. It's on you. I'm pleased. And I have to really pray on that, man, because, man, when you look
kids,
at...
I'm going to kiss y'all goodbye. See you later. Bye.
When you look at life for what it is, man, we'll be naive to think the Most High doesn't wake up and look at this place and grieve.
Yeah, of course.
You see, and so when Yeshua called me out of darkness, man, I had a dream He was on my bed bleeding profusely. The Passion of Christ wasn't out. I was only 17, I believe. And it was an earthquake. I fell to my knees and I saw him just like in deep pain. And I went up to hug him and all of that went into me. Mm-hmm. And that's why my heart stays sensitive. That's why I'm powerful in places that many are not, because my heart is broken for what is breaking his.
That's good.
You see, so when my Lord, the one who never leaves nor forsake me, the one I could repent and get right back with him, can't do that with Nicole and Jason, because love is conditional. No matter how bad we want unconditional love, on a horizontal plane, it's based on condition. And it's understandable. Nothing compares to my love for Yah. And that's why we say hallelujah. That's my greatest desire. I want to be with him. And that's why, to be real with you, I'm faithful. Of course, I don't want to hurt Nicole, okay? But his namesake is too worthy for me to drop my guard like that. I would lose everything in line with him. So it's my fear and love for him that keeps me on that straight and narrow. That's why also with men, we struggle with accountability, because we think we can find that in groups. The only one can hold a man, a Yah, accountable is the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
He's the only one can be with us 24/7.
Facts.
We can hold each other responsible.
Responsible versus accountability.
Yeah, and that's the key. And you don't want to run from that, and a lot of men do. But man, once your heart is set on pleasing him, it makes it that much easier to walk through your fears.
Was there ever moments in your marriage where you were like, I married the wrong person? I don't want this to get you in trouble, Nicole. It's a safe space for my boy Jason.
Yeah,
all right? He's gonna
be. I would say we both have had those moments. And what's interesting is when they come, when you think about it, I remember, heck, we weren't even married yet. I'm doing a roof at her mother's house, and she come up and looking cute. But I didn't, what she had on something. I'm like, Cole, I'm a man of God now. I don't, we represent each other, this and that. But when I look back, when I think man, will this ever really work? And I look at all this woman has enhanced in my life, man, tears just swell up, because when I wanted a family, I never had one. She helped give me a family. She undergirded the ministry that God gave me, the union in the cave of Adullam. It's like she stretches me gracefully to get me outside of my traumatic box.
My traumatic box.
To help me experience life more broad and full. And so when we have those moments and you juxtapose her to the world, what they offer, or she juxtapose what the world offer for men, man, nothing can touch Nicole. You know what I mean? Like, affirmation from a woman, what you gonna tell me? This woman has told me everything. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, it's nothing. It means nothing. And so, guess everyone gets to that place in marriage, but we quickly reset. It's like, I ain't going nowhere. Like she told me, oh, you mine. And that statement meant a lot to me. And it's like I told her, I hugged her, I say, I never want to lose you.
That's good.
So I'm blessed.
Why, you talk about her being able to give you a family when you had none, and for you to be able to, for the both of y'all to be able to recalibrate in moments where y'all feel like you get that, maybe I married the wrong person, whatever that feeling is. When you look, is that hindsight been 2020 that you're able to look at it and now see why she's so valued? How did you recalibrate in that moment when you felt like, y'all have a, whatever, if y'all had a big heated blow up, because, it's people right now that may be sleeping in separate rooms because they like, man, I'm sick of them. This is just, divorce is inevitable. We just going through the motion.
That's good, brother. The wisdom allows me to see the option. So I'm a verbal processor. I have the ability to process my emotions and thoughts before I actually speak them, before they become actions that are advantageous or detrimental. And so just say you're in a moment, you're arguing, it seems like there's no peace and not getting along. I make a decision that she don't like and vice versa. I look at what's the options. You think I'm gonna start over? No way. I got too much invested in Nicole. What does that say to my son about fortitude? You see, and a lot of times as men, we miss that. And it's like, what does that say? What does that say to my daughter about her value? That I can't get past some emotions of a moment that could actually ruin the trajectory of my future.
That's good.
You know, so many men have allowed, again, not being the right man in the moment. I don't need to be the protector when my wife is crying. She don't need a fighter. She needs a nurturer. She needs a lover, you know? And so in those moments where your emotions get the best of you and you're like, man, I'm tired of this, you may need to take a walk around the block, take a ride. But allow yourself that time to really think about what's out there. And it's when you've established as much as Nicole and I had together, it's just too much to lose, brother, and it's just not worth it. And it's a fight, don't get me wrong, because of what we do, the enemy attacks. And as I said before, when we were here last time, as soon as we say, I do, Satan says, I'll see. And Nicole and I have to remember that, and I'm thankful that I have someone willing to fight as much as I do. Yeah.
So you tell me, you really, in those moments, you think about the options and be like, oh yeah, I can lose all this, but I can start over. And as optimistic as you operate in a high level of optimism in order to build everything that you built, to be able to even build the cave of Adullam, to even write this book and multiple books that you've written. So how does your optimism not lend itself to feeling like the grass is green on the other side?
I'm actually a pessimist because I'm wise. I pray for wisdom. Wisdom leans on the side of pessimism, which is why Solomon says, with much wisdom comes great grief and sorrow. Because it's looking at the garbage. It's looking at what's fraudulent in the situation. So I'm a fighter. I've been training in martial arts now almost 28 years. And so we had a concept called combat communication. And you'll see it in boxing matches. They throw a jab trying to feel you out, feint a kick. Look, I'm trying to read you, see what you're doing, to let me know, okay, he won't go for this, but if I do this, he may go for that. I'm see if I can shoot for him to take him down. Oh, he has a great sprawl. Okay, cool, I can't do that. It's the same thing when I'm processing my thoughts and emotions with Nicole or anything. What's the outcome? Am I being a strategic fighter or I'm emotional? I don't have time to be emotional. Most High told Cain when he was about to kill Abel, sin is crouching at your doorstep, but you must master it. And that's when we fail as men. It's like, my man, you got to learn how to feel other emotions besides the ones you hide behind. Because as soon as they arise, you tend to fold. And so I'm very strategic. I can buy a house anywhere and make it look like $1 million home. Yeah. And you'll think that, I'm like, man, that's stupid. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so short-sighted. Now I'm in another community and I sold this house, half of it gave to Nicole, to me or the kids, and starting all over at 54 years old. I know what that looks like. I've seen it. I've counseled men who are in that situation. Nah, man, I'm trying to win. I keep my guard up. I move, I buy weed, whatever she throws. I'm not standing there and letting her hit me. I move and counter. And that's how I live my life. Everything I'm processing. I don't make moves based on my emotions. I want to look at what's feeling and what's fact and then respond and not react.
Jace, let me tell you something. That just blessed the mess out of me.
Good.
The reason why it blessed me so much is because it's this narrative based upon history with men. They'll just leave their whole family, don't even look back, and go start a whole nother family as if the previous family didn't exist. And I don't know why that has become such the norm, but it's become such a norm to where it's like, what's that movie in Boomerang or whatever? Tell I ain't coming home. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Harlem Nights.
Harlem Nights,
Yes,
Harlem Nights. You know, you tell I ain't coming home. It's like that becomes the narrative of being like, this is better. I'm not forget
What's
what I got.
deep about that? Did we miss that he got played? He got played. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm gonna learn from that, my man. You know, and so, I mean, yeah, you're right. You know, again, working with boys in Detroit, I see both sides, and it was a beautiful thing. I get to meet the dads because of the popularity of the Cave of Adullam.
Yeah.
They come, and then you get to hear their hearts and why that happened. And it's always emotional instability.
That part.
They have not been trained on how to navigate through their emotions. So again, if all you're used to is protecting and providing, you cannot navigate through the other characteristics when they're needed. So many times I blew the nurturing characteristic when I was parenting my daughter with a heavy hand. Everything was discipline. Everything, and all of that came from my dad that was passed down to me. And I remember I was reading the audiobook for this brother, and I got to that section where I shared how I would yell and I was impatient, and I literally got so choked up, I had to stop reading, and the engineer got choked up. Because as men, you know, we're living from intergenerational trauma instead of intergenerational healing. You know, we can break all of that, but we have to be strong. We have to fight. It's like, you know, we're willing to do some of the most craziest things just for our ego, but not our family. Can you put all of that in check and humble yourself? And again, it goes back to fearing the Most High. See, we've lost that connection. Everything is horizontal with she don't respect me. I'm gonna go and find someone who does. She ain't gonna respect you either eventually. Because you ain't dealt with the root cause of why you even in this position.
Teach.
And that's why I love martial arts. And, you know, I'm going to do a group for men coming up soon because men are walking around with broken boys inside.
Absolutely.
And so when we're communicating with our wives, it's not us. It's the 12-year-old boy who was abandoned, who was bullied, who was abused, who was neglected. And fear rising up, instead of him saying and being confident in who he is as a man, saying, hey, babe, you know, what you're saying is actually bringing up some very bad memories when my father used to beat me for always making a mistake. And I feel like you're condemning me. Am I accurate in my assessment?
Good.
And now your wife is, see, that's language she understands. Like the crayon analogy I gave in this book, typically women, they go in the 64 box of crayon, the colors, navigating through any emotion that God has given them, which we have. But as men, we choose the box of 8 and only use 3 of those. And so when Nicole, my wife, is asking to meet her in the moment with the color violet, all I got is purple. When she says, can you meet me with lime? Now I got to find a broken green and a yellow and try to create this color to meet this moment. But when I'm become a comprehensive man, I'm in the 64 box of crayons with her. I mean, Nicole, I wish she were here. She would tell you that it's like, it doesn't drive her crazy, but when I can stay calm and articulate my emotions, like, no, we're going to stay here for a moment because you're wrong. What we typically do, we lose control of our emotions, start yelling or cursing or hitting things, and now we got to apologize when they were the ones wrong. See, this is the power of being a comprehensive man and a verbal processor. It's a great skill, but it helps your marriage become more complete. You know, I also talk about how the happy wife, happy life mantra, or misleading mantra.
Sure is.
And so Nicole and I say happy houses, happy spouses.
Yeah.
And even the other mantra, what's one that we were talking about in the men's group? When you're out in public and they refer to your wife as the better half.
Oh, yeah.
If that was on the other, if the shoe was on the other foot, and a guy come up to me and I'm with Nicole, and he says to her, "Well, I see you with your better half." You know that wouldn't fly over well, right?
At all.
And not it shouldn't.
Not at all.
But as men, until again, it's and it's right there. Hey,
I just imagine that was your better half. She'd be looking like
yeah, but the truth is, we're two halves that become whole.
Or they mislead women, telling them she's always right.
Yeah, but that's pimp game.
Yeah,
happy wife, happy life came from that. That wasn't a term of endearment. That was like, man, keep your mouth shut so you can have peace, man. So she'll shut up, give her what she wants.
Yep.
That wasn't sincere.
No.
You see, and none of that. It all came from a man's desire for peace, but he never really had it. And so now that's why you'll see a man be married 25 or 30 years, then randomly come home and ask for a divorce after the kids leave.
Yep.
Because happy wife, happy life was only good for you.
That part.
Yep, and not for me. And so, again, it's important for men of us to speak up. And that's the challenge, especially when you have, people, men you look up to in society say, keep your mouth shut. That's not peace. This is not marriage. Adam kept his mouth shut. Look what happened.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And
exactly.
So, and what do y'all say? Because you listen to your wife. No. A woman don't respect that. She desires to be covered and led as well. Yes, it's going to be a fight because of the punishment.
Yeah.
But yet, can you still stand on that and love her and be bold, but also tender? Say, I understand that you might not agree with this decision, but judging from my track record, I have to make this decision for us. And I pray that you trust me. And we're going to pray, matter of fact, right now together, that I am following the voice of the Holy Spirit. That's manhood. That's leadership. That's how God created us, brother. We're not supposed to be what I call monofaceted now, just stuck in first gear manhood. Masculinity is meant to get you out the hole, get you from stop to start. But now you got to go to second gear and third gear. That's why our clutches is burnt out. We stuck in, everything is just, if you ever drove a stick, you just jumping.
Yeah, I'd be doing
That's life. That's a lot of men I know are like that in life, jumping on edge and just can't settle their souls. All the decisions are erratic. And that's why when they look at their family and their lineage,
that's good.
And you look back, I don't want to be the old man on the front porch with Nicole, or I said even, this is typical, by myself on the front porch, no Nicole next to me, and I don't know if my kids are okay.
That part.
Everything I've built, the books, the union, the nonprofit, the videos that encourage men, none of that's going to mean anything, man, when we're sitting on the front porch. And we're looking out into the sky. No one's calling us anymore. We got all day to sit there. And we wonder why our kids aren't visiting us. We didn't invest. We're wondering what happened with all the women when we were just cool at the club. Where are they at? See, that's what wisdom does. It gives you the foresight to see. And I'm like, I don't want that to end up my story.
Do you know any stories about a guy that you talked about, counseling or whatnot, as his marriage was facing hardship, and he felt like the best option was to go ahead and go through with a divorced, and then a year later, 6 months later, 2 years later, came back and said, I wish I would have listened to your wisdom. Have you ever had any experiences like that?
Thankfully, I'm thinking now, thankfully, they're few and far between. Thankfully, the ones that I did counsel chose to fight.
Good.
Especially when they make a mistake. I'm like, look, I don't care how she acting right now. It's not your time to speak. Be like Yeshua. He suffered and said not. You're there to hold it down. And I'm proud of a lot of men who chose like, I'm going to be here. And because of their fortitude and staying power and praying and accepting the fact that, they caused the situation, they're with their families. You have the other extreme. I mean, I remember a friend of mine, he was a CEO of a popular charter school, and we were sitting talking one day, and he said, I said, man, when do you get home to see your children, your daughters? He said, well, I see them at 7 when they go to school, and then I get home around 7:30 from here, and able to put them to bed. I said, we were in his office. I said, you think this building is going to remember you in 10 years? You think they're going to have a sign up here with your name? He left the school. It's not worth it. So those are the decisions.
You tell me he quit the job?
Yeah, he's skilled. He get another job.
He said, forget this.
Because when you really look at it that way, what are you investing in? What are you building? My father died. No, he couldn't even give me an insurance policy that had anything on it. He gave me one, but he had spent the money. He didn't want that, man. My father loved me, man. But because he conformed to his culture, the pimps, the players, my father was a popular barber in the 60s and 70s, a lot of the pimps became pastors. That's why he ran from his calling. He said he didn't want to be a hypocrite. But could you imagine if he would have answered his call and how much further I could have been? You see, and so those decisions, I think he was divorced 3 times, I believe. And he had to struggle until he was gone, man. And that's the story of so many good men who allow their emotions to take them down the path that leads to destruction.
I want you to imagine that. You said if he would have accepted his calling, how much further you could have been. Put language behind that.
Basically, if my father would have been on fire for Christ, would have answered his calling, I wouldn't have ran from mine. Although we didn't spend a lot of time together, I looked up to him. My father was strong, tough, but he was so hard on me, man. Would curse me out at the age of 11 over the simplest mistake. And his way of apologizing was through buying me something. But that's why I tell a lot of men, the kids don't care about your cash. They want your commitment. They want your presence. And so even when it gets tough for me, brother, when my sword gets heavy, my cross is dragging and splinters are in my back, I look at my son, I'm like, man, I could give this up. I could stop. But I couldn't live with myself knowing that if I could have just kept pushing, you would have saw the example of what it looks like to be a man of the Most High. And that's what I believe a lot of us as men, we miss, where we miss the lineage just for a brief moment of pleasure. My son, he sees the fruit of my labor, which I share. Many successful men my age, we're not really working as hard as we used to. But I was convicted because he didn't see the labor itself. And so it's so important for them to see. Even Yeshua, Jesus said, the people do not believe because they don't see signs and wonders.
Wonders, yep.
And so when will our boys see signs and wonders from their fathers? Meaning my dad, and I know some bad men who they stay in it, they holding it down.
Good.
You see what I'm saying? So this isn't just a narrative that, actually it's proven that, black fathers are more active than any other ethnicity in their children's lives. But the difference is not a lot of us are in the home. We're in their lives, but not a lot of us are in the home married.
And see, as you're saying this, is women right now being triggered saying that's a lie?
Oh, Google it.
They're going to say that's a lie. Whoever put that on Google lied too.
This is what I've been doing for 22 years. We are the most active. See, because the stat, the way they twisted it was that there was over 78% of homes were parented by single black mothers. And that made it look like black men weren't active in their homes. So they did another study, the CDC did, to prove that we weren't in the home, but we were active in our children's lives. Okay?
And how are they judging activity?
Well, through survey studies,
They're saying that, so they're interviewing the men, saying that
you can interview the courts. You see, and this is the CDC report.
I know, and I've heard that. I've heard this report before. Yeah,
and when I think of the brothers I know, they're in their children's lives. The thing that I want us to take it to another level, let's stay in the homes. That's, my wife would tell you, if I was just in my son's life and not in the home, it'd be a major difference in his development.
Really?
Oh, it's a major difference when I'm home. He respects his mom, but it may take him a little longer to do something.
Yep.
You see, but when I say, excuse me, boom, he runs and do it. I needed that.
Yep.
When I didn't have it, man, I almost lost my life at least 3 times, man. The things that I got involved with, that's the presence of a dad just being there.
Facts.
And you can't replace Nicole. I remember one time, and this is oversimplifying how powerful our presence is, but it's kind of comical. One day we had no idea like where these wasps were coming into our home. And when I say it was a lot, brother, like at least 30.
Flying around the house.
Yes. So my wife going crazy. So I come in with a shot vac, just sucking them all out the air. And she
sucking them out.
Yeah, just no, I'm like, until I find out where they're coming from. And she had posted on Facebook, she says, I don't care what any woman say, you don't need no man. Like I needed one today, you know? And like I need a woman. There's things like that my wife hold down, like, hey, you the best at this. You feel me?
Yeah.
And so the presence of a man in this home, Satan knows this.
Yeah.
Even Yeshua talked about when a home is armed by a man, a strong man.
Yeah. You top the man.
Armed man.
Yeah, you got to tie him up to take over his house.
What happens when he's not there?
So you ain't got to do nothing.
That's what we had to deal with for our systemic racism. We see it. If the enemy is, Satan is strategically taking you out the home, why do you think you don't need to be there? So, and I get it, my man, it's like that staying power. That's why I'm glad I trained the way I have. And, you know, I can't tell you how many times, man, I could have blown opportunities where I think about the lineage of my kids. I was on a flight one time and I was between 2 white men and one was racist. And I just happened to see his text message as I was looking out the window. He says, I'm sitting next to this.
N-word.
N-word. And I'm angry, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to just be cordial because I'm a kind man. But I'm also the kind of man that you don't test.
Boy, when I tell you, I would hate to be on the other side of your anger.
And so I'm sitting here, brother, and I'm next to this other white brother who was the polar opposite of him. And I believe that was God showing me, same way you don't like to be judged by your skin tone, I don't want you to judge them. But before that, I wanted to shoot him an elbow because my grandfather was, not to his jaw, my grandfather was lynched, man. You know what I mean? My grandfather was lynched in 1936. So I have a lot of that in my brains. I've seen the injustice and the hate. And for this man to just blatantly hate me because of the color of my skin, didn't even know me. And I thought in that moment, and this is the benefit of being able to process in real time. I said, if I hit this man, and I could have covered it up. I could have. There's many ways you can do it. Yeah. But I know, again, my fear and love for the Most High, right? But this is what's deep. I saw how that decision could affect the boys at the Cave of Adullam. Then you go a little further, my wife and son was sitting in front of me.
Oh, they was there?
Mm-hmm. We were going out of town. And as I'm getting off, because the guy, he gets out, and I'm leaving, and I wanted to say something so bad. And I'm like, would that benefit me? What could that lead to? And I said, you know what? I let him live in his own misery. And I walked out. And what's crazy, when I saw him out in the area where you come off the plane, he was terrified. You started that. But I chose not to operate.
Well, what would make him nervous? How do you know you saw it? Or were you showing off? You was giving them some signs?
No, I think, you know how people sometimes, self-conviction, you know you're wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything, and I don't think he saw me look at his phone, but he knew he was wrong. You know, I'm talking to him in the beginning, but then
you stopped talking.
After I see it, I stopped talking. So I kind of think that he wanted me to see that. You see what I'm saying? And so it's like, how do I respond in that moment that keeps me in an advantageous position? And in that moment, it wasn't worth it to respond. And so, and that's the same thing in marriage. So you're talking about men being able to stay home. Like timing is everything.
Yeah.
And when you have the Holy Spirit, he'll tell you, don't say it right now. Wait.
Yeah.
Write it down if you need to. Remember. But when you bring this back up, you come with a different spirit. And it always works for me and the men who choose to operate that way. But yeah, man, it's a challenge, and I get it. I don't want to lose, man. Losing to me is divorcing. Nicole and I divorcing. I gotta go. I mean, one of my worst fears, brother, is going to a graduation, seeing my son, and I'm not married. Meeting Nicole and then having to go to the little graduation party and I'm single, she's single. Man, that would hurt me so deep, brother.
It hurt you even more if you single and she was married.
You got remarried?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's deep too.
Because you like, my son is being raised by this other dude.
Well, he's graduated, but I've seen that as an issue, but it's like you left. And to all fairness to some men in situations, the women step out on the marriage and the husband, and in those situations, it's unfortunate. And that's why I commend the brothers who still, there's brothers I know that's divorced and still do their best to be with their children, but they still, like the ramifications of that sin is still so great. And so I'm like, let me keep myself together while I'm married, avoid the traps that many of us fall into.
Yep.
And at the end, I just want to finish strong. That's my goal. I want my grandchildren to see, like, man, Papa J held it down. My son to say, my dad, he did it all. He held it together, not just because of the Most High, but for the love of my mom, for the love of me, my sister, and the lineage and the money. I'm like my daughter told me one day, brother, we talking about generational wealth. And Alexis says to me and Nicole, she says, Dad, generational wealth starts by you and mom staying together.
Your daughter said that?
Yes.
Where did she read that from?
Her heart. My daughter's smart as well. She knows, she studies. She's a life coach as well, but she saw the sacrifice me and Nicole make, and so many couples miss. And this is why you see other ethnicities, they'll stay together in separate rooms.
Yep.
Because they understand the power of the finances when you have two incomes and you're together. And I want to leave it. I want to leave a significant amount for my children, our children, so they don't have to start the way Nicole and I did. And that comes with having a commitment. Say, hey, I'm in it.
Your daughter said that to you at what age?
She was grown, man. She wasn't a little. Alexis was about 20. Maybe 28 then. And me and Nicole were just talking about investments and what we want for her and little Jay. And she said, all of that start by y'all just staying together. Because if we stay together, we at least have a house for them. But if we get divorced, I got to split the house with Nicole. Now, I need that half to get me a new house. You see how that works out?
Safan Weaver and her husband talked about that, and they said that. They said our wealth gets split the minute that we decide to go do something different. It's like, in the half, and you're like, I'm getting my equity out of this, and I'm getting this, and then y'all go try to build something together. Men typically gonna go get an apartment or something, so he ain't building any equity. He go get an apartment because he finna be, because like women come into your life to bring in more of stability, to be like, we're gonna build a house together. We're gonna build this. Men be like, man, I may live here 1 minute. I'm finna go move over here. And so it's unfortunate, but that's what keeps happening in our communities. I'm planning on having Dr. Frazier on the podcast, and he talked about the marriage rates in the Black community is like 30% or something. And by 30, it's gonna go into the teens. That bothers me. That grieves my heart. That lets me know that we got to turn this thing around. And so that's why I need people like you who can speak to the value of marriage like you do, to speak and not sugarcoat everything, act like everything is fine, everything is great. Y'all don't have disagreements. Y'all don't have moments where you want to go to the other room, but to be able to say, listen, yes, but my life is full with this woman. My life cannot be any better without this woman. This is we're gonna rock it till the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
You know, how long did it take for you to get to that heart posture? What year in marriage?
2015 was the year. I can't recall what year that was. It's 26
So about 10 years
now.
ago.
Yeah.
The
about 10
year
years
16.
ago. Yeah. We were at the doorstep of a separation. No infidelity, no gambling issues. We just couldn't get along, man. And I hadn't control over my emotions. I recall the significant moment, again, not being able to not only express, but to process emotions. Nicole, I had shared that I wish I could spend more time with Jason because at this period of my time, I was working a lot. And Nicole says, I wish you desire to spend that much time with me. All I heard was something else I wasn't doing right.
Yep.
Instead of hearing that she just wanted this, she wanted the same desire, the heart that I said that statement, she wanted that for her. What's wrong with that?
Yep.
I get so mad, brother, that I yell at the top of my lungs, hit the refrigerator, put a dent in it, and the cold spirit just faded right in front of me. And at that moment, the Most High was like, you haven't mastered your emotions yet. You got to get yourself together. And at that moment, I took a journey, an introspective journey to start healing. And that's when I aborted the path that we were on. And Most High told Nicole and I, you built this marriage the way you wanted to.
Now let me build it.
Tear this, we're going to tear all of this down, and I'm going to build it. Do you know our first marriage therapy session was 9 hours? I praise God for this couple, but it was 9 hours. And it was experiential, meaning they act out and show, it's called psychodrama as well.
Yep.
And they put Nicole on a box on the couch because she felt like life was coming, like closing in on her. The relationship with me it just felt like she was just in a box. And for me, he put a roadmap out on the floor and he put a skull and some other objects out. And as I was crawling down the path, this skull broke me down because it reminded me of my mother who was dying of dementia. So you see, I didn't see Nicole in the box. I didn't see my words, my dogmatic ways put the woman I love on edge in the box. And she didn't see all the things that I was dealing with, especially the heaviness of my mother, the first love of my life, dying before my eyes, how heavy that was. In that moment, once he showed us that and we looked at each other, the couple told me to go get your wife. And I lifted her out the box and we hugged each other and we haven't looked back. And just being able to, what do we say? We say having a healthy marriage isn't about how much you know, but how much you're willing to apply. Look at all the workshops, retreats, podcasts. Why is marriage still failing at an alarming rate? You have to learn to die to self. When you die to self, now Christ can move through you. And that's the key. We didn't change until we started applying what we were taught. And that was the major difference.
I was walking out of church yesterday, and we have an overflow parking lot across the street at this school. And so I was walking across the street, and this young guy looked like he was about this, I think he said he was 27, 28, but he was walking alongside of me. And he had talked to me when we were walking across the street when we was going to church. And then we were walking back. He said, man, because he said he hadn't been to church in a while. And he opened up his notebook. He said, look, I took a whole lot of notes. He said, I got like 2 pages of notes. I said, now apply it.
Absolutely.
And so I love that you just hit that, because that was confirmation from a conversation I had with a young king yesterday, saying you can take all the notes you want to and it can sound good, but now apply it. And one of the things that God told me while I was doing this podcast, I said, God, I want to sit. So this is one of the secrets. This is behind the scenes from my journey. When I did the podcast, I always say that my biggest struggle is listening. When I was in my marriage, I'd be like, I listen to respond. I'm not listening to listen. I'm listening. I want to jump in and finish your sentence and tell you what you about to say to me and all that. Just let me tell you how much I know what you about to say. So I'm interrupt you so I can tell you about what you about to say. And so I said, God, as I do this podcast, I'm not going to have notes. I don't have no notes when I ever do a podcast. I don't write down nothing and say, oh, Jason, let me ask you this thing. I said, God, I want you to teach me to be a better listener. The episode will fall flat if I don't listen. I said, but I want you to teach me how to be a better husband and not be listening to respond, but listen to listen. And I just want to sit here and be able to be dialed into my guests, where it's not pre-planned, is not rehearsed. We can have an organic conversation. I can hear what they are saying, and I can have a verbal exchange back and forth without judgment.
That's good.
And I did that, and I've been doing that going on 5 years, where I just sit here and listen.
I remember the first time the therapist basically called me out on my selective hearing. So they had Nicole share with the two counselors and myself her heart. And so she's talking at least 5, maybe 10 minutes. And so when she finished, Dr. Bro, he looks at me and says, so Jason, would you mind taking a moment to repeat what Nicole said? And I'm like, what you mean? You didn't hear? You know what I mean? What you mean repeat? Like, no, take some time and repeat everything that she said. Turn to her. I couldn't repeat a word because I was processing, trying to save my responses to everything she said. Okay, she said, I'm going to say this. Then they had her again, share again. And this time, when I practiced listening, not to respond, but to hear her heart, it gradually changed me. Like, wow, I do listen to respond. I want to be right. I want to prove you wrong.
Yep.
And that was one of the greatest hindrances to our marriage. And now just to listen without trying to be right.
Yeah.
Just hear her heart. I just want to make sure I respond correctly. And that's the goal. But that was my wake-up call when I realized I have selective hearing. Well, had selective hearing.
And that's good because, like I said, that's the hard posture I was in. I'd be like, I'm trying to respond. And even now, if someone is saying something to me, especially like if I'm dating somebody and they're saying something I can receive as criticism, my brain is like, I'm automatic. My brain starts shifting like, well, let me tell you, hold on, wait, the way you're looking at this is wrong. It cannot be what it is. And my mind, I'm like battling my brain to calibrate and say, acknowledge what they're saying. Just acknowledge what they are saying in that moment and be like, okay.
I mean, that's what I do with the boys. When they're having those moments of fear or anger, outbursts of anger, I acknowledge, how are you feeling? What's going on? And I dig. I keep digging. And I've learned to do that not only with myself, but also Nicole, And again, as men, you don't want to allow the world to take everything from you that when you get home, you have nothing left for your own family.
Right.
And, and just to be able to say, hey, I've released enough in this world today where if you have something you want to share with me, I hope I can be present enough where I can hear it and give you more than what I gave them.
Yeah. Jason, I need people to get this book. I'm going to be honest with you. That's my agenda. My agenda of having you on here is that I need the men to show up as the man the moment demands. And when I say I know for a fact that this book is going to help change the trajectory of men's lives, period. take spouses out the way, take all that, just how we show up with ourselves, in ourselves, and to the world. And I love the heart posture that you have, the mentality, the submission that you have with Christ, which is a beautiful thing about, it just came to me just now, about when I used to do martial arts. I did it for a little bit, so don't be trying to test me on that. Don't give me no chokehold. I did it when I was about 18, 19. I did a little jujitsu. I did a little taekwondo, a little kung fu. I did a little bit of all that. It was mixed martial arts. And one of the things that I used to, the most humble place you can ever be in is a place of submission. When you get in a chokehold or something is on you, and you tap out. And unfortunately, so many men, they tap out in moments where they shouldn't be tapping out, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in their own lives. The ultimate tap out is when you commit suicide, and I've seen people go through that. And so my thing to you is that I love how this book is going to help men learn how to tap in.
Yes, that's good. What's deep, I love what you said, because I often teach, we tap too soon. As soon as you feel a little pain, you tapping out, trying to get out of it. I make my students stay in there. I'm watching you. I'm gonna let you know when you right there, we got to build up that resilience. I say, because, just holding on a little more, now maybe the person applying the choke is weak now, and you can shift to get out of it. Yeah. And as men, the last thing you want to do is tap out too soon when you only needed maybe another minute to fight. And, I share a lot of that as well. Speaking of jiu-jitsu, before Hoist Gracie came and dominated the UFC, we saw the choreographed martial arts, what was it called? 5 Deadly Venoms and 36 Chamber martial arts, guys flying around and all these styles, but none of them were really tested until jiu-jitsu came. Yeah. And it changed everything. And if you were to stay in that tradition, you would have lost or been left behind. Same thing in manhood. You have to become MMA in manhood. You got to know more than just striking. You got to know more than kicking. You got to know more than Muay Thai. You got to know more than jiu-jitsu. You need to know it all. So whatever come your way, you'll be able to be the man, whatever that moment demands.
Why should people get this book, Jason, before we wrap up?
Why? Well, for men, again, we all are tired of blowing it. We're tired of not being able to meet the moment. That's why I wrote this book. I share actually 3 of my main techniques that I use personally to help me navigate through my emotions and challenges and help me be able to express them better to Nicole, my students, co-workers, etc. Just for every man who wants to, he knows life is more than just doing. And the only way you can get out of that, you have to show why you exist. And that's why we risk our existence, because we don't know why we exist.
That's good.
So when you know that you're more than just the fighter, the provider, and the leader, I say those 3, and you can get outside of that and become comprehensive, you experience a more fuller life. And as I always say, we're not tired of living, we're tired of not living.
There it is.
Yeah. And for women, this is interesting. A lot of women are ordering the book.
Oh, just about to ask you that. I was saying, what's the value of a woman reading it?
Yeah, the characteristics. Now you move past the superficial things that society teach you a man should be, and now you have a blueprint to say, wait a minute, this is what it means to be a comprehensive man. Can he navigate? Can he, morph between all of the characteristics whenever is needed? And now, even if you have a son, perfect blueprint to train him up how to be a man.
That's what
I actually have in a chapter called The Gentleman, I'm teaching dining etiquette. The same curriculum that I teach my boys in the Cave of Adullam, that's in there.
Good.
To teach, our young boys how to dine at a table. There's more about eating, more than eating food, but the conversation. I have so many kids testify that because of the dining etiquette training, they were able to get scholarships and advances in their collegiate careers.
Oh, I love that.
So definitely the book could be used for single mothers who just would want their son to understand what it means to truly be a man, and that's authentically human.
Jason, I can talk to you all day.
Easy.
When
Me
I
too,
say
brother.
I love sitting at your feet and learning from wisdom, wisdom that has been tested, tried, and proven. And listen, I speak blessings over this book. I want this in everybody's hands. I love that you touched on women reading the book, finding value, mothers over sons that can teach them how to, in the unfortunate absence of his father, can teach them what true manhood looks like with dining etiquette and everything that's around it. Just be able to have that language with them and read it with them.
Yes,
just
absolutely.
sit down and say, let's read this. Let's read this together. I think that's absolutely powerful. So y'all go run out and get this book. It's going to be a link in the description. Go out and get this book by Jason Wilson, The Man the Moment Demands. Listen, y'all give it up for my homie, Jason Wilson, y'all.
Thank you. Honored to be here. Thank you,
Man, it was an honor, King.
Means a lot.
Stay tuned to the end for a letter to my future wifey.
Been writing these love letters to you. Ladarian, thrusted suddenly into Child Protective Services in 2015. My nephew, Black, a boy. The likelihood of being adopted outside of kinship, slim to none. Armani, 16 years old, Black, a boy, with 5 years in the foster care system before I even knew his name. The likelihood of ever being adopted, yep, you guessed it, slim to none. While Ladarian and Armani were trying to survive and barely thrive in an overpopulated and underfunded foster care system, I was living my own life, doing well professionally. Having been a single father with a daughter who at that point was doing well in college, it was my time to live my life, right? Wrong. I felt unsettled, tireless, agitated. There are just too many of our Black children stuck in ambiguity and in the limbo of the foster care system. In 2017, I legally adopted my nephew, Ladarian. Fast forward to 2019, I had no ties to this other young king, but I felt God instructed me to adopt him also, and I obeyed. Starting over with parenting should have been enough, right? Working with various foster care and adoption agencies to help bring awareness to the countless young Black kings in the foster care system should have decreased my agitation, right? Joining the board of directors of Advantage Adoption, an organization that helps find permanent adoptive homes for children in foster care, should have led to some type of resolve, right? No, not at all. None of it felt like I had done enough. I now realize that every one of those experiences was laying the fundamental foundation for my life's mission, Kingdom Royale. Kingdom Royale will be a luxury, state-of-the-art home for foster boys. Our first location will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We will utilize the whole person approach that instills identity, empowers them to advocate for themselves, and enlightens them regarding new perspectives and limitless options that they thought were impossible. Though the young kings will attend the local public schools that are in proximity to Kingdom Royale, our at-home curriculum will broaden their worldview through participating in the arts, attending various cultural events, learning about and engaging in multifaceted discussions about current events and even relevant historical contexts, introducing them to gardening and landscaping and even caring for our animals on our farm and on-site stables. We just launched our Startup Capital campaign with the goal of raising $2.8 million. Now, why $2.8 million? Well, in 2017, I created a web series in which I performed random acts of kindness for targeting the homeless community. One of the most notable successes was that one of the videos went viral, garnering 28 million views. However, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't raise a single dollar to help in implementing a more sustainable plan for the homeless community. So throughout the years, with much remorse, I reflected on not maximizing that moment. I knew if at that time, just 10% of the viewers donated $1, we would have raised at least $2.8 million that could have really established long-term support for the homeless community, or at least started a long-term initiative to do so. This is my do-over. This is our new beginning. Together, we can attack this at the root by specifically helping our homeless Black boys who are already disproportionately represented in the American foster care system. I'm Laterras R. Whitfield. I've been nominated for 3 regional Emmys documenting my work with the homeless as well as my personal adoption journey. Despite those accolades, the greatest award for me is truly providing the infrastructure for a transformed life. Visit kingdomroyale.com for more details. Crown a king and make a donation today. Dear Future Wifey, as I sit and reflect on the man I am becoming, I realize the journey to embracing my masculinity is one of both discovery and responsibility. Masculinity, often misunderstood and undervalued, is not about dominance or bravado. It is about stewardship, strength, and service. It's about being a protector without being overbearing, a provider without being prideful, and a lover without conditions. I am committed to becoming a comprehensive man, one who is whole in mind, body, and spirit. This means confronting my weaknesses, not to hide them, but to transform them. It means being vulnerable enough to express my fears and courageous enough to face them. A comprehensive man doesn't just lead with strength, but listens with compassion, walks with purpose, and loves with intentionality. For years, society has painted pictures of what a man should be. I've learned to peel back those layers and create my own canvas, guided by God's vision for me. It's about being accountable to the vows I will one day make to you. It's about creating a safe space where you can rest your heart, knowing it will be cherished, protected, and nurtured. It's about balancing strength with gentleness, logic with intuition, and power with humility. Your future hubby.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving.
Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.